Hello there, everybody. Um, Today I wanted to talk about something that is very popular in the language world today, and that is political correctness. Now, we'll talk about political correctness in a positive light, which is unusual. The purpose behind political correctness when it originated, as I understand, was some major universities out east who wanted their professors to be polite to their students, and so they would have a proper educational decorum in order to be able to have an environment that was conducive to education. That's the idea behind political correctness originally. And what happened is they released this paper. I think it was out of Yale, and it said that we do not consider it politically correct to refer to certain students with particular words which are considered negative. Now, let me tell you a little story. I was in college this was back in the 80s, back in the middle 80s, early to middle 80s, and I had a class called Film as Literature. And this particular class, it was kind of a fun class. I'm a literature major, and we would watch a film, and we would either read the screenplay of that film and then compare it to the film, or we would read the book that was the original book that the film was made from, and then we would do an analysis of how the films compared with the literature and so forth. And we had this class, and there was this funny little professor, little dark-haired, wiry guy, who was every day got up in front of the class before we began talking about film as literature, and he would start on about his diatribe about the wetbacks coming into America. He says, "Oh yeah, they're coming into America. You watch, this is going to be a big thing in the future," and he was right about that. Says all these Mexicans, these wetbacks, sneaking into the country, taking over our jobs, and they're just smelly and greasy people, and all this. And I was sitting in the back of the class, rolling my eyes, thinking, when is this guy gonna get done with this stupid comments about this? I don't care about this. I want to talk about film as literature. Well, anyway, the class ended. I got a B, and about 3 months later, I met this young woman at the student union, and I was sitting there, and she came up to me and said to me, "Weren't you in that film as literature class?" she says. And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "What did you think of that guy?" I said, "I thought he was kind of a weirdo." And she says, "Yeah, what did you get?" And I said, "I got a B. What did you get?" She says, "Oh, I dropped that class. I had to drop it." And I said, "Why?" Said, "Well, my parents were both born in Mexico, and every day I had to sit in that class and listen to this guy call me a wetback. Well, I was a wetback and a greasy Mexican and everything, and I paid $2,000 to go to that class and pay his money that he got from the class and his salary that he received, and all he did was insult me every single day." So I see her point. She pays $2,000 for this class, film as literature, and she gets this racist asshole who goes every day and tells her she's a no-good wetback. And this is something that the Republicans in the world just can't understand. They think it's okay to be politically incorrect. Politically incorrect. That's what they like to say. In other words, they think there's some kind of a problem with people in schools and colleges being required to be polite to their students. And this is something I think nobody cares to understand on the right. Political correctness is a bad terminology. It's poor marketing, when the guy came up with the term politically correct versions of races and so forth. That was probably bad marketing. He should have come up with something like polite versions or something, because that's essentially what political correctness is all about. It's trying to be decent in a forum where you can you can deal with people on a respectful manner. I mean, and that's kind of against the whole Republican philosophy lately. You know, they don't want to be respectful. They do not want decent decorum. You listen to guys like Rush Limbaugh, you listen to guys like Donald Trump, they're rude and they're crude and they're nasty and they say nasty things about people, and that's kind of where our political rhetoric is sunk to. You know, of course, I can go on and on. They don't like education anyway. I mean, what does Rush Limbaugh refer to the schools as? Scrools, right? They don't like the population of the United States to be very educated because that favors them when they're not educated. A non-educated person doesn't realize that they're being fed this stuff. No, political correctness just means manners, good manners. And that's something that they have attacked, and they have successfully attacked it. And that's where we have gotten to as a country. We're a rude and crude country, and everybody is coming at everybody else's throats because you call each other such rotten names all the time. It is important, I think, usually in a political or a debate type situation to try to refer to people with a respectful manner, respectful and decent. Instead of calling a woman a broad, or instead of calling a black person a nigger, or instead of calling a Mexican a wetback, or instead of calling an Italian a wop, these things, they really do destroy any possibility for a decent decorum in any kind of a political discussion. I know for a fact when I was a young guy, there was a guy down the street. We used to play with his kids. And one day, I went over his house and he started looking at me with this nasty look on his face. And he said, "Hey, little Dago Wop Wop. Hey, little Dago Wop Wop." Because, I'm half Italian, So, "Hey, Dago Wop Wop." And I'm looking at him like, just be quiet, But he was the guy, the father of my friend. So I wasn't going to say, "Shut the hell up." I'm just like, "Little Dago Wop Wop, what are you doing?" That's how I hated that guy, and I never wanted to go by that. And that was always a thing with me, and I always thought of him as a low down, no good bum. Even though he made a lot of money, he was otherwise a very decent and hard working guy. I realized he was a racist. See, you cannot refer to people in such derogatory terms and expect some kind of positive outcome to come of it. That's what political correctness is about. And the reason that people oppose political correctness is because they basically do not have respect for their fellow man. And that's where they're at. So I say thank you very much for your time.